profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order.
Can the United States win an economic war without even firing a shot? Today's video covers some really powerful insights from people like Ray Dalio, Secretary of Treasury Bessent, George Soros, China's economic collapse, and some other economic trends that I think you're going to find interesting. I'm not saying that we're out of the woods, but I'm going to offer some different angles that aren't shared out there in mainstream. You're not going to want to miss this. And it takes me a long time to put these videos together. The only thing I ask you for is a like and maybe consider a subscribe, because when you do that, you keep this channel moving. I enjoy putting these videos together for you. It takes a ton of time and energy, so if you don't mind hitting the like or subscribe button, maybe both, that's a way to tell YouTube that you like what you hear, you find value in what I say, and I want to remind you, every time you do something like that, you feed Charlie, and he loves dog treats for sure. So today we're connecting the dots between China's internal collapse, Dalio's macro fears, and a 1990s playbook that really could explain what's happening right here, right now, with treasuries, bonds, U.S. debt, and China's uncertain future as well. So there are some red flags from Ray Dalio, and this guy's no joke. He really is one of the leading economic voices that are out there, and he does see some very, very troubling signs out there that could be worse than a recession. And when he says recession and it could be worse, I guess the next thing I think about is, well, maybe a depression, right? And nobody wants one of those. He cites rising debt, trade uncertainty, and a splintering of the global order. In other words, our old alliances and how the system worked up until now, 2025, and what the world looks like moving forward from 2025. Specifically, he would like to see our debt only increase by 3% this year. That means cutting 4%. Where that 4% comes from, go ask Congress, right? And maybe ask Doge, and maybe ask the president. All very, very important things to consider, because it kind of brings all this discussion right back here to the United States and what we're doing to save ourselves, and maybe not worrying about the rest of the world to save us. So there's a blueprint, and I call this blueprint the Bessent and the Soros blueprint, because there's a very interesting story to pay attention to here. Because if I can, flash back to 1992, George Soros and Scott Bessent took down the British pound. Now you might be asking yourself, how on earth did they do that? But it wasn't ideological, because let's face it, politically they come from two different spheres, but it was very tactical. They saw a weak system and they struck. Now China's economy looks like it's a little bit brittle, over leveraged, politically rigid, growth collapsing, and let's face it, a place where they need to find $400 billion to dump their product. Hint, it's not going to be the United States. Let's call this America's silent strike, because as China props up the real estate market and pushes the yuan to internationalization, the U.S. still controls reserve currency status, bond liquidity, global tech and innovation. Those things belong to the United States, and those things come from the United States. You don't need bullets to win a war, of capital, that is. You need leverage, and the United States still has plenty of leverage.
Secretary Bessent's advice, and a sign that Bessent is rising, at least within the president's trade team.
So I want to share a quick story with you to maybe give you some additional insight that's really not covered by the mainstream news. And I'd say that there's something else here. I don't completely see it, and maybe you can help by leaving a comment below, because the fact is, here's an irony. The same U.S. policymakers who helped short the pound are now running Treasury. There's something very powerful there. And is the U.S. winning by default? we don't completely see the big picture? Um, or are we asleep at the wheel while the whole system erodes from within? Lots of things happening, and maybe a pivotal administration, a pivotal move in history. And I have to say, some very, very powerful people playing a big time shell game in Washington, D.C. Hi, I'm Brian. Thank you for joining. I want to remind you of a couple things here that I make these on a daily basis. So I want to make sure that I'm delivering right to you. So a like and a subscribe will do that. Leave a comment below because this is a community, and this community is as strong as everybody who's participating. One last thing I want to remind folks that listen, with all the information overload that's out there, I want to remind you that the biggest battle we fight is the one between our ears. Stay healthy and celebrate your victories.